gentlemen, to the Horrorcast. I am Pirate Ghost George, staff writer from DualShockers.com. Joining me in this is really weird. Joining me today on this very special horror podcast, I'm going to go by an order of shittiest costume to not. So I'm here with Ryan Meitzler with whatever. You're not even.
I'm a pirate clown because I couldn't get upstaged by you and your pirate ghost. So.
That's enough out of you. Here, Mr. He costumed as a neckbeard or a guy who's going to sell you ecstasy. Ladies and gentlemen, Joel Harris.
What's going on, everybody?
And special guest number 1, all the way from the UK, finally in a country that matters. Ladies and gentlemen, we called him Mr. Brown last week as our secret name for him, and kind of realized it was sort of racist. But, ladies and gentlemen, a wild Yaris has appeared. Yaris Gutierrez, welcome back to the ShockCast. I believe.
I was gonna say, I thought Jillian was gonna be Mr. Brown. I was gonna say that's pretty weird. Well, yeah, yep. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
How long has it been, Al? I mean, Al.
Al.
We don't even know this guy's name. It's been so long. We don't even know his name.
Al's not the big and brown guy. It's me.
You got the wrong brown person.
I don't think Yaris is real. He has no camera. I'm just.
It's gotta be like 40 episodes.
All right,
yeah, it's been a while. It's been quite some time, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you more weird London questions in a bit, but also special guest number 2, ladies and gentlemen, from Tom's Guide, and one half of the Horror Bells podcast. So I figure we're going to talk about horror games. I need an expert. I decided, ladies and gentlemen, Jillian Shar. How are you, Jill?
I'm great. How are you, George?
You are not in costume.
Oh, want to see my costume?
Yeah.
I'll just take my glasses off. Hang on.
Because I'm going to look ridiculous if. I'm not counting Ryan because.
You already do.
Oh, that's good.
Ryan's dressed as Pennywise the clown with an iPad.
I can't see anything when I'm wearing it.
That is fine.
The costume.
Like that.
From Twilight Princess.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah. I like it. I'm jealous. I put no effort into mine. This is hard. I have I keep wanting to reach out. I have zero depth perception. This is really weird.
Yeah, that's like in my costume too, with the helmet over the one eye.
This is how Big Boss feels. I'm just kind of like.
You actually look like him, actually, with the whole beard going on right now. You like Snake.
I was going for casual Snake.
You look like a Dominican Snake right now.
See, now we're gonna get like a 10-minute long trailer.
No.
So, okay, fine. All right.
No.
Okay, I'm not gonna talk then. Fine, I'm done. So I'm out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about horror games. But first, I'm going to get started. Do you want to do new releases, Ryan? I'm going to let you run with it. Go. Tell me what came out this week.
Hold on. I got to bring it up. Sorry, hold on. Yes, there were new games. There were new games that came out just in time for Halloween. Let's see. So this week we have Lords of the Fallen on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. A little indie game called Sunset Overdrive by a pretty small studio. Yeah, really small studio on Xbox One. Another indie console too. Freedom Wars for PlayStation Vita. The Unfinished Swan for PS4 and PlayStation Vita.
That's such a good game.
Yeah, it is. WWE 2K15 for Xbox 360, PS3, PS4, and Xbox One. We've got SingStar for PS3 and PS4. Tiny Troopers Joint Ops for Vita and PS3. Big Hero 6 Battle in the Bay for DS and 3DS. I didn't know there were still DS games coming out. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, Costume Quest 2 for PS4, PS3, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Wii U. Home for PS4. Blood of the Werewolf for PS3. Oh, hashtag Kill All Zombies for PS4. I almost messed it up and said Kill All Zombies, but it's actually hashtag Kill All Zombies. So they pulled the Drive Club on this. MX vs. ATV Supercross for PS3, NBA Live 15 for PS4 and Xbox One, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Danger of the Ooze for Xbox 360, PS3, and 3DS, Poltergeist, a pixelated horror for Vita, Stealthing 2, a game of clones for Wii U, Gargoyles Quest 2 for Wii U and 3DS, Demon's Crest for Wii U, which I almost said is Demon's Chest, but I avoided doing that, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland for Wii U, Farming Simulator 15, because Farming Simulator 14 wasn't enough. The Sun and Moon for PC. And okay, hold on. This week's Japanese game I can't pronounce. Cartagra, Affliction of the Soul for PC, Mac, and Linux.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the longest list of games I've ever heard in my life.
There's a lot.
I like that one of those was called Attack of the Clones.
Oh, that would have been great.
Oh no, Game of Clones. That's what it said. Game of
Yeah.
Clones. I just emoted a Star Wars onto it, but yeah, because it's like a double clone then, the clone of Game of Thrones.
Oh, clones. Movie. Cool. All right, we're off to a fantastic start, and you just have really like awkward starts. We're kind of like the sprint runner, right when the pistol goes, just face slams.
Or you know those times when George just tells me to shut up right out of the gate, which he did this week. So.
So, what do you choose? I'm going to go with Sunset Overdrive because I wrote a review and got like 300 comments, and some of them hate me. That's a thing. So, what about you, Ryan?
Other than Sunset Overdrive, I'd probably go with the Unfinished Swan because it's a really, really good game. And I actually, it's cross-buy with it's cross-buy on all those platforms. So if you played it on PS3, you can get it on PS4 or PS Vita. So actually, I really want to go try it on PS Vita. So that's my pick.
Mr. Yaris, the Utah, the current Utah resident.
I'm probably gonna pick Lords of the Fallen. I'm actually reviewing that game right now. It's pretty good so far. Not too shabby. Yep. See, I stepped out of the comfort zone there. Everybody's a little awkward.
I think you got the title wrong, Yaris. I think it's Lords of the Dark Souls is I think what it's called. So.
Okay, let's go with that. Sure.
Mr. Joel.
I would have to go with Sunset Overdrive. I'm a big Insomniac fan, especially like the Ratchet and Clank stuff from back in the day. So yeah, that's definitely my pick.
Jill.
I have to go with Unfinished Swan as well. I love that game. I think it's so unique, and I played it. It came out like 2 years ago on PlayStation 3, I think.
Yeah,
so
2 years ago. Yeah.
Remake now. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, guys. So let's talk about horror. That's why I'm in an eye patch. That's why it's black and white. That's why I'm a ghost.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
something to say.
There is a ghost.
I'm a ghost, and there's a ghost behind me. I went for the whole ghost, ethereal clean. It's really nice. So let's talk about horror games. Let's start with the new stuff, and let's call it #new horror. And I want to talk about The Evil Within, which I know the panel here is split on Evil Within, and also go into some Alien Isolation. Let's start with some Evil Within. Yaris, you reviewed it. You gave it like a 7.5 or something.
7.5, yeah.
You said it was good, which is my biggest.
Okay. All right. We talked about this prior to the ShockCast starting, and I have to agree. I mean, the biggest issue with the game, in my personal opinion, is the plot. The plot is a piece of shit. The game starts out really well. I think it starts off with high expectations, and then it just falls flat on its face towards the end.
Better question. Do you know what the plot is?
I do. I just won't spoil it, just in case people are listening and they do want to play it. Again, it's very convoluted, is what I'll say.
Yeah, because the beginning of that game is really good. I thought it's like it's
right, exactly.
An awkward kind of stealth sequence, but it does a good job of building the tension. And I think the game falters in all the kind of game parts of it. Like I think it builds a good atmosphere and it's tense, but my issue is the controls. There's that butt camera that we were talking about, Jill. When you kind of like go into stealth, the camera kind of zooms in a little too close. You really don't see anything outside of.
It's kind of the same thing happens in Gears of War. So come on, folks. Come on.
I was gonna say, does it have like the Bayonetta 2 camera where it's just like on the guy's butt the whole time? So
No, it would be better that way. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this again. The controls itself, the button pushing, it's to me similar to The Last of Us. That's my opinion. Now, yeah, it feels a bit more clunky when you're turning around. That's because it's created by the Resident Evil, franchise creator, and it's in that respect, it is a little heavy when you're turning around and whatnot. But controls-wise, I mean, when you're aiming, when you're shooting, when you're crouching, I feel it's not as bad as people make it seem. I think the game was fun for what it was. It wasn't great. It wasn't amazing. I thought it was okay because it was entertaining in what I felt was a pretty decent game.
Well, I have a comment about the Last of Us comparison, though. I think that, I mean, you say that like the story is but the gameplay is fun. I think so. Whatever awkwardnesses that were there in The Last of Us, I think the story made up for them or like framed them. Like I was playing as Joel, who was just this guy, and I cared about him and I cared about his story, and I felt like he was a real person who is not a ninja or a super warrior. And so the whatever like slowness in the controls was part of the story, and it actually made me more engaged. But Evil Within, I don't know anything about. Was it Sebastian?
Sebastian Castellanos.
Oh, yes. You don't know shit about Sebastian unless you pick up all of his journal entries when you're going into break into the murders. You don't understand anything about him, which is something I obviously went into in my review. That I thought was kind of lacking in that respect. But my thing is, like, it really depends what kind of gamer you are, right? I mean, either you're a gamer that's invested in story, or just a gamer that's just invested in having a good time. I enjoy good story for sure, which is why I docked the points that I did. But I felt as a game, it was sort of entertaining. It was tense. It had its tense moments. You know, there was some times that I jumped. It wasn't a PT kind of game where I was that scared, or Outlast, but I felt that it had its moments.
Okay, so as a horror game, what do you kind of rank it as far as did it do its job as being, you know, as we see the commercials, it's like we asked real people to play this game and they're screaming and crying. I mean, did it do its job in that sense for you?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, the people that were probably flinching on the commercials, those are people that probably just saw like a fly get on the screen or something, and they're like, "Oh my god!" I don't think it was.
They totally ripped that off of the PT thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't feel again. The game was intense. It was intense, but it wasn't scary.
Yeah, I mean, remember they did that for Dead Space? It's the game you don't want your mom to play, and they just put these ladies there and goes, I don't want my kids stomping on necromorphs.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a terrible commercial.
Yeah, those are the same guys that gave the game. The game review was like, what was it, $100 or $50 in a mail one for Dante's Inferno?
Oh god.
I think so, yeah.
For the Sin of Greed, and that came with your review copy. It's like, here's a joke. We gave you some money. I was like, no, you actually bribed me. That's weird. My take on it, because my big thing for a horror game is at some point you should actually care about the character you're controlling. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I thought the early hours of Evil Within I actually kind of liked. As bad as the controls were, I love that kind of like that stealth sequence of someone chasing you. It's very, to me that was tense. That kind of drove me nuts. And getting through there, and it was very guided. That the linear portions of Evil Within I actually like. It was when the game actually opened up, when it did that that kind of that village around, was it the end of Chapter 2 or early Chapter 3, where you're very similar to Resident Evil 4. You're in this very quiet village, and then crazy villagers come out. And I'm like, you know, this would be super tense if I kind of had an idea, because you can break stealth, but you had no indicator whether, you know, there's no cone of vision, or there's nothing that tells me, am I in this guy's sight line? If not, like, that kind of drove me nuts, because at some point it's like, well, do you want to be a stealth game, or do you want to be a game where I'm running away from things, or do you want to be kind of an action game?
Yeah.
And to me,
well, there is an option. There's an option in the settings though to actually enable something that, you know, tells you when they're looking at you. Just an FYI.
Yeah.
Out there.
Is there?
Little eye thing. Yeah.
They should have said something. But yeah, I mean, that's where they kind of lost me. But like I said, the one thing I remember I mentioned to Jill. So in the game, you kill these corpses. I mean, you kill these zombie guys with barbed wire. It's very, if you're into body horror, it's got some.
The Haunted, yeah.
It's got a lot of that. So so those guys, when you knock them out, you can kind of do what you did in that Resident Evil remake, where you can light the corpses on fire so they don't come back. So you have a set number of matches. So you only have 5-6 matches at a time. And you kind of have to make the decisions like, all right, killed a bunch of dudes. Which ones do I want to light on fire? Meanwhile, you can carry a torch as a melee weapon, but you can't use that to light anything on fire. It's just
video games.
It doesn't matter, all right? Then don't put a name on it, all right?
Yeah.
But I think
moving that axe one time, like, come on.
Yeah, but I think something like that, like, it plays into that kind of like, like, I feel like this game is kind of a mix of like, the classic like Resident Evil, like the like the action wise, like it plays a lot like classic Resident Evil, but it also has like kind of the mix of like Silent Hill, like the really weird like messed up like imagery and all. But I mean, a part of that too is that like resource management is a really big part of this game, and so like managing what you have and being like, okay, I've got like 6 dudes and like 2 sniper rifle bullets. So and you have to. I think that's part of like why I've been enjoying the game, is just figuring out okay, how am I going to get out of this situation? Even
you're in the first few hours, right?
And Jorge, we don't know Jorge whether or not that's actually a stick, a flame, a stick of flame. We could just be a long roll of cardboard. Or,
It could just be a cardboard tube, like.
Yeah.
A torch should set things on fire. That's my gripe. And once I couldn't do that, I'm like, oh man, Shinji Mikami, what's going on here?
Yeah, it feels like an old game, and I guess the excuse is that it's a classic homage or whatever. But it feels old in the way that some things just don't work the way you think they would work, or then the environments aren't as dynamic, or particularly this idea that story can be so slapped at, so just sort of tacked on in between things. Like it feels old. Despite the next gen graphics or whatever, which I didn't even think were very good. I thought the lighting effects were particularly bad. Like the shadows moved dynamically, but the lighting made everything sort of gleam in this surreal fashion. And if you're trying to do body horror, like the whole idea of body horror is you have to make me believe that it's a real body, and it's never seemed like it. It was this weird thing where it's at once gross, but it also doesn't seem real because things are gleaming and shining and reflecting, and the faces all look ridiculous and mask-like. It was just sort of like a kind of a jumble of signifiers to me. It didn't ever form a cohesive idea.
So nobody was a fan of the letterbox? Didn't add to the drama in there, the tension?
That was my TV, right? Like that. I kept thinking like I can't see anything. It's just this guy's body in the way.
Yeah.
Settings. I was trying to fix it in the settings.
Yeah,
it's there for a reason.
they just patched the PC version, so now you can like in the PC version you could remove them if you like messed around in the files and stuff. They actually just updated it I think a day or two ago, so now you can remove them or not. I think visually and from like kind of the cinematic like qualities they're going for, like I like it, but I do agree it does kind of cut off a lot of your vision, which is a little tough. Like when you guys said about the butt camera, and I'm like, yeah, it does kind of his butt does kind of take up a big portion.
Yeah, don't take away screen real estate, especially when there's not much to see, because then I said, you are there, and then you have the zoomed in butt camera, and then when you want to aim, it zooms in even more. So when you're trying to get like a very precise headshot, you're just kind of all stuff's just zooming in your face like a really weird Sam Raimi movie, and it's just like I can't right now. So I'm just running or trying to, I like trying to like melee the guy. We put the knife in the back of the head, like really kind of like gruesome execution.
Yeah, I liked how he was a cop and he had no stamina. That must have been awesome.
I was gonna say like he must have eaten like 5 hamburgers before he went to go and like check out this mansion, because he runs for like 3 seconds and then he's out of breath, and it's just
he's a detective, right? He's not on the beat anymore. He doesn't chase down crooks.
Can you tell by the vest?
Yeah, I know. It is just weird, but it seems like running is almost useless, because by the time you get like 10 feet away from the guy, you're throwing up on the side of the room.
It's another sort of artificial feeling limitation. Like if there was some sort of narrative explanation for that, then I'd be like, yeah, this is cool. This is like the opposite of a power fantasy. But it just seemed like it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why my dude can't run more. So it's just frustrating.
Well, because you got to get the
He's not.
box and put the thing in your head, and then give some more stamina.
What's that?
Right?
What's that word again? What did you say?
The brain box.
That was dumb. I don't know.
Stanima. Right? Words are hard, all right?
Okay, like I said, I didn't think the game was spectacular by any means, and I said that in my review. I think that for fans of Resident Evil games, they'll probably enjoy that for sure, because it does have like like Jillian said earlier, it does have that old feel, and it is an old game in some respects, and I think that for fans of the Resident Evil franchise, they'd appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But by no means do I think the game is spectacular. It's a good game from what I'm used to. Obviously, I have different tastes as well, but I just think, and what it tries to do in some respects, in terms of just having a good time, in my experience from me beating the game, I thought it was pretty fun.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna respectfully disagree, and by respectfully, I'm gonna go. but if we want to talk about, what was that, Joe?
Oh, I was just saying. It's true that reviews are always a subjective thing. Just for my part, you talked a little earlier about how you liked the beginning. And I hated the beginning. I hated it, and part of the reason though is also a subjective thing, and it's because I really think that body horror is like the laziest form of horror. Like it's just like look at the blood, look at the bodies.
Your guts, you like guts?
Look at the guts.
Don't most horror games nowadays do that. I mean, the only game series that I've played personally that hasn't done that is Silent Hill. I mean,
Well-
Dead Space does that.
Alien doesn't have a lot of gore in it. I mean,
I haven't played Alien yet. No.
We're gonna talk about Alien, but
some of that. I mean, I think that's games like Amnesia, which is my like go-to for like
It's a good
modern
game.
horror. There's not really a lot of horror in that. I mean, the like what makes the game scary, right? Like for Evil Within, the scariness kind of comes from like the fact that these people have barbed wire coming out of their faces and it's bloody, and I'm like, all right. But something like Amnesia, the fear is like the fear of the unknown, and because you can't even like look, the whole like it wraps up this like game mechanic of how you can't even look at the things like.
So doesn't that mean then that the perception of horror is really pretty much based on individual's perception of it?
Oh
Then
sure,
like,
so my aversion to body horror is definitely like partially a just a personal preference, but
Right.
I also think that I think it's interesting to look at like a horror thing, a thing that brands itself as horror, and identify what that thing is putting forth as scary.
Right.
And I think that often body horror is kind of a shortcut towards just getting a visceral reaction out of people.
so let's talk about Alien, because me and Ryan played Alien, and I'm digging. I'm so happy to play Alien. I'm going to take this off because it's really confusing.
Just one thing I want to say really quick, I guess, before we move on to Alien, just because, like, I feel like with Evil Within and Alien both coming out at the same time, they both kind of represent these two kind of like facets of horror, where it's like Evil Within is more kind of the slower paced, like old school form of horror, and then we kind of bridge into Alien, where it's more, like when I play Alien, I feel like it's kind of a mix of like Outlast, Amnesia, and Dead Space is kind of like the three games that I kind of see the most out of it when I play it. But yeah, Alien, I like Evil Within. I've been enjoying, like, because like I'm a big fan of like Resident Evil and especially the older ones. So I've been enjoying it for that. I mean, I agree some of the controls are kind of clunky and everything, but I guess moving on to Alien, Alien I've been really enjoying so far. So I don't know, George, whatever you wanted to start off with. So.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about Alien, and the whole idea, what scares you is the biggest game mechanic is, and what was it? It's not even super early. Like 2-3 hours into the game, you get introduced to this alien that's stalking the space station, and it's just the one alien. It kills you in one shot, and you kind of have these objectives you have to do. So early on, you have to get medical supplies. So it's like, all right, I have to go to this med bay. I have to get stuff and come back, but I know there's this alien that can come out, and it's randomized. Come out through a vent. It can just hang out in the room waiting for you. It'll just sit there and it'll mess with you. And what I like about that game is, for me, to make something scary work, or make, even going back into horror, but like it's that idea of like, yeah, it's tense, but you still have like, you're terrified, but you're still curious. And I think Alien does a really good job of saying like, it's stressing me out. This thing is gonna kill me. It's annoying, but I kind of want to keep going and kind of goof around with the mechanics a bit. And like, you sit there and like, my favorite part is when you encounter other humans who have rifles and guns. So it becomes an issue of like, this alien just indiscriminately kills everything. So it becomes an idea. These scavengers looking around and stuff like that. And you take something, you throw it, and all of a sudden the alien comes out and kills everything in the room. And you're like, all right, I'm gonna make a mad dash. And it's when you make that mad dash is when I'm having like the most fun, because I guess that's like the release of like that scary. Because like you're there and you're hiding, and you see the alien's feet go by when you're under a desk, and you're like, oh crap, I hope it didn't see me. And if you have your Kinect on, which I don't recommend, or your PlayStation 5, it'll actually hear you. So it does a noise thing. So if you're there making a peep, the alien's just gonna reach down and kill you. And you have the head tracking, so you can peek over corners. And I think to me that's the kind of that's the scary that works. And to me that's the stealth that works, where it's just very slow, methodical approach is like you can't kill the alien. You can just piss it off, and it becomes that turn in kind of like that slasher movie when you stop being the victim and you start getting these tools that can kind of keep the alien at bay, and you kind of get like you feel that progression of you outsmarting it to the point where this thing you've been running from this whole time is actually helping you get through the stage, because you start figuring out you learn how to game the system where it's like, I know what pisses it off, I know what gets its attention, and you start getting it in that respect. But to me, that's what I really enjoyed about Alien.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I've got one of my friends is reviewing it at Tom's Guide, not me. So I've just been seeing a little bit of it, and I want to play it. It sounds so awesome.
Yeah, it
looks awesome.
And
Yeah.
the DLC is really awesome with the Nostromo pack where you get to play as the original cast, and like that's
See,
I
that's the
love
thing.
that.
That's the thing where, like, also Alien Isolation, I mean, in terms of story, has kind of an advantage just out of the bat, because you're like, it's Ripley's kid, I already care, you know. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I did not care about Sebastian Castellanos. I just,
Yeah.
you didn't give me anything. Like, you didn't make him immediately. Like, he was just a very generic detective guy. Like, he's probably from he's probably from New England. He's got that New England look, maybe. He looks New England. But I'm like, you know what? I cared about the detective in D4, and he was like a caricature of someone from Boston, and I gave more of a shit about him than I did about Sebastian Castellanos.
Let me ask you a question, Jorge. When you first played Resident Evil 1, did you care about Jill or Leon?
She almost became a Jill Sandwich. Of course I care about her. Like, I liked it because they just...
Lying sack of shit.
I would say you can't care about Leon because Leon wasn't even in the first game. So
You're right.
it's
You're right.
You mean Chris Redfield?
Chris Redfield. Yep.
I cared about Chris because he was just like he just became more of a meathead as the series came on. So he just kind of I found him charming in a way that he just kind of thumpered through these situations. As Jill had maybe more personality. Like I preferred playing.
Me personally, I never attached myself to a character in Resident Evil like that. I mean, maybe in Nemesis when I was running for my dear life. From Nemesis, but
see, and that worked because now you had because at some point you start figuring out these zombie things, but now you have kind of this X factor that comes in. It's like any given moment, this giant asshole is gonna burst right through a wall. I have no idea how to stop him, and that's the kind of vibe you get from Alien, which I love. There's this constant nagging, monkey you have on your back that can also hell you in one shot. And like one of my favorite moments is you're sneaking there, and sometimes the alien will be waiting, and you can see the spit just kind of drop from the ceiling. And it's just there waiting for you, and you're like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna go the other way.
Yeah,
and
I almost had a situation like that where I was like running into a room, and all of a sudden at the last second I saw the spit hang from the ceiling. I'm like, oh god, and I just had to step back because I was like a second away from getting nabbed by the aliens. So it was pretty intense.
One of the times I jumped was when you're under a desk, and you clearly see the alien pass. I'm like, haha, I fooled you. And then as you move, you just literally see a tail just impale your chest, and you're dead. And I'm just like, that motherfucker saw me.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about the end. And it's super random, so it's like you can't just go there and be like, well, I know he's gonna pop out from here. You come into a room, and I'm like, okay, I know there's a vent. He can probably come through there, or he's hiding over there. Well, I don't hear anything. He could be standing still, or maybe he's not here entirely. And that's the kind of that self dialogue you have in your head there. And and Joe mentioned it's Ripley's kid, so it's like, fuck yeah, you're already invested in the character. But yeah, that game does have some weird performance issues. You're playing it on PC, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm playing on a PC. Yeah, it's so far it's been fine for me. I haven't really had any issues on it, so.
Yeah, that chugs on consoles, on PS4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, whenever a cutscene happens, it's just like you kind of get into it, and then all of a sudden the character starts getting all herky-jerky because it's just the frame rates will just dip for no reason.
Yeah. That's
really weird, but that's where. So I want to ask my team of experts on horror here, and I gave you guys homework to think about your favorite horror moment. But I didn't tell you guys. But to think about your favorite horror moment in a game, not counting the dogs jumping through the window in Resident Evil 1.
Bullshit. You didn't say that was off the table.
Too easy, Joel.
Did not
I can tell you right now exactly what mine was.
Do it, Yaris.
So Fear, the first one for PC. I was when you're climbing a ladder in the sewers, you reach the top, and there's that red fucking little girl just staring at you, right in the face. That was the first moment in my life in gaming ever that I yelled at the top of my lungs, where I said, "Holy shit!" and just stopped playing the game. I stopped playing the game literally.
Ryan, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, well actually I have two quick ones. So this one actually, I think I mentioned it on last year's Halloween podcast, but I'll repeat it again because I don't think anyone else here has heard it. But anyway, it was the Resident Evil remake for GameCube when that came out. At the time, I think I was 11 or 12, and I was so excited to play this game because I was like, I can't wait. This is gonna be the best game ever. I got to the first room with the first zombie, the one that turns its head in super slow motion, really close up. I rented the game, so I got so terrified at that one spot that I shut the game off. I returned it the next day because I couldn't keep playing it because I was that terrified. I was so scared. But I never finished that game because I just got so terrified of that. But anyway, I grew up and became less scared and liked horror games more. So I think after that would be pretty much any moment in like the original Dead Space. I really, really loved Dead Space a lot, and so I think like it's funny like playing Alien because it's like Alien reminds me of Dead Space when Dead Space was inspired by the original Alien, so it's kind of this weird like loop that it made. But Dead Space was really good just because like
it was so quiet. It was so quiet.
Yeah, and because there were all those times when like you think you'd hear like stuff banging around in the vents and stuff like that, and you're like, oh shit, and something could just pop out at any moment. And I just remember like there were so many parts where it would just get me like with those like jump scares and stuff. But it's like easily one of my favorites. So
me and Joel played that game together, Dead Space 1. He just sat there watching me playing it.
Yep, and then at a certain point I was like, no, turn on the fucking lights right now. Right now, turn on the lights.
I would say the first
and Joel just kind of, I don't want to do this, you do it. Like, was I being generous with the age?
Yes, very.
Jill, your favorite horror game moment?
I like, I guess this is more of like a experience, but I played Penumbra, which is the game that came out right before Amnesia.
Yeah.
I was with a bunch. I was in college. So I was taking a class on video games. A bunch of like classmates. Like we went into the back into the classroom like one evening, like play it on the big screen, and we all like took turns with the controller, and I was playing it, and it wasn't even like the scariest moment in the game. It was just like the first time that those dogs jump out.
Mm.
But the dog jumped out, and I just screamed and dropped the controller and threw my arms around my friend next to me. It's just like the wrong, like that's just the wrong thing to do playing a video game. It was such the opposite of like a productive thing, because then my character just died because I was not touching the controller. But I thought that was kind of a fun.
Oh, you had time to think about it? Joel, you had time to think about it?
Yeah, I'm still stuck on the dogs, man. I'm sorry.
You can do better.
No, I'm trying to think. What was this? I like the scare, the absolute scariest.
Did you play PT? Was there a jump scare that you said like no?
Was there a fucking jump scare?
Something about PT, Joel. When I was at your house.
I was avoiding playing this game. First of all, I'm the worst when it comes to horror games. So let me just preface that. I'm the absolute worst. So,
did Joel scream like a little girl and like?
Dude, I was on the phone with work.
Listen to this.
I was on the phone with work. I wasn't even the one playing. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. The sun's out, the lights are on, and I'm watching Yaris play this, and he knows what's about to happen. Like, so he's like setting me up for disaster. He's gone down the hallway like 17 times.
Okay.
I'm already saying like, this is fucking stupid. This is fucking stupid. Turn this off. Turn this off. And like he's like, oh no, the bathroom door's open. I'm gonna look in. I'm like, don't look in. Don't look. Like, going back and forth. So I get a phone call from work, and one of the buddies from work, he plays video games as well. I was like, yeah, my cousin's showing me the PT demo, and like I'm answering some question. I don't know. I'm just like, oh, God, like the guy's on the phone. So yeah. Yeah, that was probably the scariest thing.
Scary.
That was
so scary.
I'm convinced that Sony, Kojima and company are going to make like Morpheus support for that and just give people horrible nightmares.
I wish like that would be perfect.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, if the game is anything like that, like throughout the entire gameplay, I probably won't play it because I think I'll die from a heart attack.
Because we talk about virtual reality and like what's this like Morpheus and Oculus Rift thing, and we always said like horror is going to be the way to go for this because if there's something you don't like, your reaction is to look away. But when you're wearing a headset,
you can't look away. Oh my God.
Have you seen that video? There's a really funny video of a journalist who's playing a horror game on the Oculus Rift. And I understand this because he had a similar reaction to what I just described. Is because he's playing the game and he's looking around. The video is outside, so you can see behind him the screen of what he sees on the Rift. But the video is of him at the controller, and he's looking around, and there's empty hallways, and he turns around, and there's like a zombie right behind him, and instantly his first reaction is to just rip the Oculus Rift off. He's just like, oh!
Nope, wouldn't do that.
Really embarrassed, but
wouldn't do that.
It's what works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's yours, Jorge?
I'm gonna go with, I think, one of my favorite, like, most scariest games. 'Cause it's one of those games, yeah, you played it when you're super young. I'm gonna go with Silent Hill, but the moment when you get the little radio that lets you know something's nearby. Because that was a game that I just did not understand, where just nothing made sense, but not enough where I was like, well, this is stupid bullshit, I'm gonna walk from it. It was like, I was curious about, like, why is the city Is the city changing? Is it not changing? But every time you were out in the fog and you hear that on your radio, knowing that, like, through that really thick fog that you couldn't see anything, and you hear that thing and you're trying to run down, and you're like, oh, somebody's gonna kill me, and you just have a pipe, and that's your only defense against something with, like, teeth and claws, or those stupid nurses that don't have arms but they just go blah, 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 like that. Like, those freak me out. So whenever I hear that, or even now, where I hear that any sort of, like, muffled bell ring, I think of Silent Hill and I immediately start getting, like, anxiety. And to me, I like being scared. Being
Silent Hill.
Fun.
No, the scariest part in that game was walking through the school.
Yes.
With the fog.
No.
Kids with the knives.
No. I think the beginning of the game was the scariest shit to me. When you're in the alleyway and then all those little things start chasing you around and you wake up, that was scary.
God, yeah. Oh my god, I just thought about that. Oh, I'm uncomfortable right now.
Fuck, his George's sleep is fucked.
I know. I've been thinking about playing Silent Hill again. Like, yeah, I had that same reaction for PT, where we had that first jump scare, and I was like, I'm an adult. I know Kojima's weird and Guillermo's are. Fine, but I can handle this. And then as soon as you hear something behind you, and it's that lady, and she kills you, I guess, and you just get that zoom up there. I just put the controls on. I'm done playing this. Like, I don't.
Honestly, I've never finished a demo. I stopped playing it. When I was in London when it came out, and I started playing it. My wife was right next to me, laughing at me like an idiot.
Yeah, I was playing with a coworker, and she was playing, and I was just watching, and it was like, actually, I'm proud that she later told me that I made the game more stressful, like scarier, because I was like, I just kept being like, what's that? What's going on over there? Like, turn around. Turn back around, go that way, and it was just got so tense.
Oh, so wait, so you didn't get to the bloody fridge suspended from the ceiling yet, then, right, Joel?
In PT.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He got to the part with the crime baby.
I got him playing. You know what? I'm gonna keep playing.
But I've never finished the demo.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's horrifying. And or the ghost person looking down at you from the second floor.
I don't think that's just. See, I've never seen that, Jorge. See, I didn't see that, George. Fuck you. I'm not playing that game ever again. You just be saying that.
Good, you know what? I don't want you to be scared. Yaris, no, you don't need to be scared.
No, the thing about that game is that it's eerie. Because as soon as you start the game, you just have that sense of just being uncomfortable. It's your comfort level just drops. And like when you keep going through the rooms over and over again, you notice when you have a look at the clock that nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Like time has completely just stopped, and then that one moment when you look at the clock again and it's 0:00, you know shit's gonna go down. That's when I stopped playing the demo right there. I was like, you know what, fuck this game. I'm gonna go to sleep.
I liked it because it felt like anxiety, like feeling it. Like the game felt like a metaphor for anxiety, or like compulsion, and you feel compelled, sort of like you're sort of stuck in a recursive loop where you just keep doing the same thing, and the more you have to do it because you think it's like doing the thing will make you feel better, but it actually just makes you worse, and it really hits you right in the mind.
Even the sound effect from the light, like the light swinging, that whatever that chandelier thing was, when you hear that creak back and forth, like that makes you uncomfortable.
Like, I haven't played PT, but I watched a lot of videos. I watched a little bit of Al's videos that he did a while back when the game came out, and even just watching that game is terrifying because it just it looks so realistic too, and that's like part of it. Where, like, I remember like first seeing videos of like the baby fetus in the bathroom, and I'm just like I think I just have to shut this off because it's just too much. It's like
and that shit cries. That shit cries.
I know. Yeah, it's like once I got there, I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm done. I'm like I have to stop watching.
You know, Ryan, it's Halloween tomorrow. Stop being a little bitch. Download the game.
Well, I need to get all day streams of horror games, just Ryan playing PT, where people just don't look at the people. Don't look at the people.
I need to get a PS4 first, so there's that. But
Gosh.
Yeah. So all right. So let's another question for the panel. So what's the one thing, if I wanted to make a horror game that to scare you specifically, you and the panel here, what's that one thing that game needs? Yaris, I'm gonna go with you.
I think suspense is definitely it. I mean, I kind of like going back to what Jillian said. I think the whole, having mutilated bodies thing is a little overdone. I think the fear of the unknown makes things much scarier, which is what made PT so scary to me. Is that you're walking around in a corridor that's obviously very tight around you. So if you're claustrophobic, you're fucked. Lighting, and you're turning a corner. You don't know what's in that corner. You don't know what's around that corner, and it's just tense. So I guess yes, just suspense for sure is definitely my top thing.
Ryan?
I guess kind of going along with what Yara said is atmosphere, and especially I think with games like Alien and Dead Space that get it really well is just creating this environment that like always keeps you on your toes because you don't know like what's gonna be around the next corner, or even like I said before, like in Dead Space when you're just hearing shit that's like going off all around your events like banging and stuff. It's just like even if there isn't something that actually is going to come and kill you, it makes you think that there is always something that's going to come and kill you, and that's what I like about like especially Alien does that really well.
Joel, what terrifies you?
Put clowns in PT.
Fuck those clowns.
I actually went to Haunted Circus, FYI.
What? Nope.
Joel, what's that? You don't like clowns? You don't like clowns at all?
Oh, God.
It's like
Stop. No.
Jill, what about you? Let's peel back a layer and let's see what terrifies Gillian
Okay,
Shaw.
well, okay, so what I find horrifying about horror is that I can't control the way I feel. That it's just like I'm gonna feel scared and angry and like that I'm doing a thing, watching a movie or playing a game or whatever that's specifically trying to make me feel out of control of my emotions, I guess. And so like echoing that, I like kind of I'm interested in horror that is psychological in a way, like with PT, with the sort of like the ideas about like compulsion, or like in Amnesia, where you have to sort of monitor your own fear or like insanity with a meter. Like I find that really interesting. But like the caveat to that is that I think a lot of horror, well, what I would say like is bad horror, has this really horrible trope where they do the insane asylum trope that, I mean, Evil Within does this, where like, oh, insane people are so scary and they're so messed up. It's so horrible to be a sane person who is just like played by these monsters, and I think that's horrible. I think that's just a really pervasive trope, and so I guess that's my caveat to my like thing in a horror game is like something interesting where you. What's scary is your own mind, and the gameplay is about you sort of like figuring out how to like cope with that and work through the fear of it.
I'm a big fan of the build up, especially like when I watch a horror movie. Like some of my favorite films are like those like Asian horror, like The Audition, where you're going to be led to something gruesome. So everything's just a build up, and you just sit there and your butt's super clenched, and he's like, you don't want to see this, but you've been watching these assholes just build this up for an hour and a half, and you're like, I need the payoff, and then when you finally get that payoff, you're like, oh my god, and that's why as we were talking, I was thinking about Gone Home, because not a horror game, it's a game that actually does like a Switch, where at a glance you think you're playing a scary game because you're in this big abandoned mansion. Yeah. And then you're finding out things about this girl's life, and then that's when your own mind starts to mess with you, because right when you get towards the end and spoilers, I'm going to spoil it. Right when you get towards the end and you get to the attic, I'm already in my head. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to see the body of a 16-year-old girl. I am not emotionally ready for that. So when you finally get there, because they throw a couple of red herrings about like she starts she's into ghosts and the occult, and you're like, oh, this place is, oh man, no thank you. And then when you finally get there and you find out, oh no, it's about her coming to terms with sexuality and running away with like her, the love of her life, I was so relieved to get that to be the ending, as opposed to, oh my god, is she going to be swinging? Did she slit her wrists? What did she like set herself on fire? I don't know what she did. And as I was there, I was just like, oh. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a horror game, but I would still consider Gone Home like a scary game. And to me, that's the bad part about like something good that's scary. Like I wanted Evil Within to do that for me. If we go back to what we were talking about earlier, I wanted that build up, especially in some parts where it was quiet, because I feel like maybe the pacing's a little bit too it's a little bit all over the place on that, where it was just like, it kind of rushes you along a little bit too fast, where you couldn't appreciate a lot of the scariness that was going on, because you know what, that intro village is horrifying. That insane asylum is creepy, but I always feel like I'm just being like rushed along, where I didn't have enough time to like build up to the scary. So when I got to the next monster, I don't have enough bullets to kill. I didn't care. It became something I needed to beat, as opposed to, whoa, I'm terrified. Like, what do I do now? Like, to me, it became a game and not just like a horror game. It's just like, all right, just down the list, I got to do this, and that, where I wasn't even terrified anymore. But yeah, like, give me that good suspenseful build up. Like, take Alien. Talk about that original movie where it's just like, yeah, that's kind of, I consider the original Alien like a horror movie. It's a monster flick. It's just she's being stalked, and you're just there, and you're like, oh man, when this alien comes out, I'm gonna be terrible. Like that scene with the mouth and the thing coming out, like I saw as a kid, that's horrifying. That gave me nightmares, and to me, that's like the best kind. But yeah, what was that yours?
I was gonna say, I tend, when I play games usually that are specifically set to me, like survival horror or whatever, I tend to psych myself out, because what I tend to do usually is I do turn off all the lights, because I'm obviously a masochist.
Nope. Nope.
And the thing is, like, I try to place myself in a situation. For example, like when the first BioShock came out, it's not a scary game per se, but when you put yourself in that, and when you think about being in that situation, where you're in a world that's completely empty, you don't know what's around, you hear people crying, you hear people laughing, and you are just looking around dark corners. That to me scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, 1920 shit out of Yaris.
Yeah, and that's a good example of just a great of a narrative just really like pushing the atmosphere, where it's like, yeah, you're just alone in this underwater biome, but yeah, you hear the cries, you hear like the rustling pipes, a pipe bursts some water, and you're just like, man, I kind of don't want to be here.
That's like the atmosphere though that Ryan's talking about, and I think that's like it's crazy because atmosphere in games it can really like make or break the entire experience.
Yeah,
and I think that the most important character, and like it's funny, I feel like we bring this game up in every podcast, and Jill brought it up earlier. Last of Us, the environment, the feeling behind everything about like everything around you was like another character. Like, everything sucked,
Another
the world sucked, and that just made things more tense.
Yeah,
another. Go on.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. It's fine.
I think, on the subject of atmosphere, I think the games like The Last of Us and BioShock did a good job of making you feel like there was a reason why things were the way they were, and made you feel like there was more behind the curtain. Because like no game can program every single like idiosyncrasy of like real life into it, but the games that have good atmospheres, I think, make you feel like it's all there. You just don't have time to access it, or your character wouldn't be interested in it, or it's just like inaccessible to you for some reason. And that's what. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was to say no. Jill stole my thunder because I was going to say BioShock, but that's okay. No, because I was say BioShock is actually another one where it's not like explicitly a survival horror game, but there were plenty of parts of BioShock where I was actually like pretty scared, like in the beginning of the game.
Oh yeah.
When you first go to Rapture, they start like tearing apart the biosphere thing that you're in, and I was like, wow, this is like pretty like intense. So.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about The Walking Dead season 1 and 2 as far as?
I love that game. I don't know. Is it horror?
I don't think it's really a traditional
in season 1, I'm worried about something. Like you're worried about Clementine, and that becomes to me the horror part. It's like I don't want anything to happen to this little girl, even though the game is already programmed. Because nothing's gonna kill her in the game. Like you're not, you don't play as her. She'll be like an escort character or anything like that. But even though like that's a game that was so well written, I was just kind of like I'm playing. I don't want anything bad to happen to her where I'm throwing myself in front of zombies for her. And yeah, just because I was generally scared, not for my character, because I Leave's a fucking badass. I was more scared for her, kind of the defenseless girl in this like really fucked up world. And yeah, Ryan, I just talked all over you, but that's something I do all the time. So what were you trying to say?
No, it's okay. No, it's just it's interesting when you bring it up because of like like Walking Dead, like the TV series and the comic. I guess you can kind of get more of that like survival like horror kind of sense from it. But the game, I'm not really that scared. I think it's more of a thriller to me, where it's just more like it's about the intensity of the moment and just knowing that like oh crap, it like at any moment like I could lose like this character that I've been like trying to protect this whole time or whatever. So I think it's different. It's not really much of a scariness thing for me per se when I'm playing Walking Dead. It's more just kind of like being in the moment and being and like in the intensity and just being like okay, like I need to make everything I do count because like I could lose someone or something really bad could happen.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of intensity versus something like Evil Within or Alien, where it's like, oh crap, I could die at any moment. So.
Yeah, I didn't find them scary. I mean, it was brilliantly written, like George said. I thought the writing was amazing. But again, I mean, the scare factor to me, I guess you guys just brought up right now, is pretty much trying to protect somebody that you don't want to lose, including yourself. But again, I just place myself in that situation, and again, it is the atmosphere that makes it. I don't want to say scary, but creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of Alan Wake. Like, that's a game I played in the dark with headphones on, and to me that worked. I mean, as dumb as that plot was, just there's a shadow. Like, that's a game where the sound design really did it for me. Because every once in a while you'll hear some guy yell or whisper something at you, and I'm just there with my little surround sound. I'm like, someone behind me said something. What do I do? And, those are parts where you're just like, you have a flashlight, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think a flashlight can kill anything. I'm not equipped to handle whatever you're gonna throw in front of me.
You know what was one really like I don't know, it's not really scary, but kind of very creepy. The original Psycho Mantis fight on PS1 in Metal Gear, when he's like switching the inputs on your TV, telling you the games on your memory card.
With the two like breaking the fourth wall.
He broke a wall there, and you're just what's happening right now?
The other good one too is Eternal Darkness on GameCube, where it did the same sort of things, where it did it made you think that like your memory card was erased, or all of a sudden your guy's like head will all of a sudden just like pop. So like that's another kind of horror too, when it like kind of breaks the fourth wall like that. And Eternal Darkness was really, really good for that.
Well, my favorite was when it changed the AV channels.
That one too.
Like, so I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh my god, I need my remote. Where's my remote? And then it comes back. I'm like, oh, I'm just getting my ass kicked. That's why it changed my insane.
Have you guys? Has anybody here played Siren?
What was that?
No, I haven't.
Siren Blood Curse. Has anybody played that?
No.
That's me being too scared to play it.
I heard that game was fucking scary.
It was like episodic on PS3.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Fatal Frame. Like, I like the idea of taking pictures of ghosts. Like, that seems kind of neat. Also, that was terrifying. It's one of those kind of like, one of the reasons why I like Asian horror is just kind of like, I'm so unfamiliar with the culture, so like all their symbolism is totally different from like what I expect as a Westerner. So just that feeling of like, I don't know what any of this stuff means, and like that, and we mentioned that earlier, just that like that fear of the unknown, or that curiosity of the unknown is what kind of like pushes you forward, which is why why I like The Ring, and like, what was it, Dark Water? That was another good one.
Yeah.
But guys, we're almost at an hour. We're not gonna get to news because who cares? We're talking scary stuff.
Scary.
So I'm gonna go and say what for Halloween, for the people out there, and maybe we'll get this up by Halloween. I'm being optimistic, right, Ryan? We get this up by Halloween, Ryan?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, right. I want to leave you guys. Let's give them a treat. So I want each of you to recommend just one great Halloween movie for people out there to watch, that they should watch on Halloween when they're just stuffing their face with like candy corn and pop brownies. Like that's
Oh, can I go first?
Oh man, I want to go first.
Go.
It's an old classic. It's one of my favorites. I'd say Event Horizon.
Oh, yes.
Event Horizon for sure.
Ryan?
I don't know. Like, I'm a big fan of the classics, like Exorcist and Silence of the Lambs. A lot of those like that are all like some of my favorites. I think one of my absolute favorites I'm gonna go with though is 28 Days Later. I think it's still like, it's a more recent one, but it's still like probably one of my absolute favorite. Like, it's
really good.
It's favorite. Yeah, it's a really good movie, and it's a really scary one.
Joel, why were you shaking your head when Yars was like Event Horizon?
Well, no, because I still think The Exorcist is the scariest thing I've ever seen. And when you grow up with a super Catholic grandmother who made you think that movies like that were the devil, like that's like the creepiest, scariest thing that you can ever watch. Like The Exorcist, like I don't know. I think my mom, who's like 50, still can't watch it. Like she's like, nah, I can't do this. I can't do this, So she made me watch it when I was younger, and I was like, wow, this is.
She made you watch it,
and I never want to do this ever again. But if you really want to get spooked the hell out, The Exorcist is the way to go.
Yeah, show it to your kids. And you'll turn out fine like Joel. Jill, you're one half.
I'm scared of everything.
Jill, you're one half of the Horror Bell podcast. You're an expert, so I want to hear a really good one.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I'm not an expert actually. In that, well, part of the podcast is that my co-host is the real horror fan. And I'm a sort of I'm not a big fan. I'm very skeptical of horror. The scariest movie when I was a kid was Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the scariest movie I can handle. I literally ran screaming from the room when the skeletons fall out of the room. And only recently have I started getting inundated with horror.
Yeah. Like it's supposed to be like a family, like not kids movie, but it's appropriate for kids. But there's some horrifying images in that movie. It's like a guy's face getting melted off and like.
Oh my god. Yeah, but it's funny that you say like recommend a movie for while you're eating, because I can't watch horror while I'm eating. I feel sick. It's scary. But I really like the original Ring though.
Yes.
Ringu?
I think like the Japanese one. I think it's so good. I think it's so like subtle and smart, and it's really scary. I think all like it doesn't have any C in it unlike the American version, and that makes it even scarier. And
the American one scared the shit out of me, so I'm not doing it.
I
can't.
Asian children still freak me out.
Little girls still freak you out? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Asian children just freak me out. I can't even walk around.
Oh yeah, that was even before the movie. They creeped me out.
Well, so it's a fun. It's not a horror movie, but I think it's like a campy Halloweeny movie that I like. Is Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter.
That sounds amazing.
That's a better.
Is that the one? That's the one with Hawkeye, right?
I was just about to say that's Hawkeye.
With Jeremy Renner, yeah.
It's Hawkeye.
I don't want to be there. He hates that movie. He was the whole time. I love it. It's so campy.
The movie that I hate the most is the first Halloween, Michael Myers.
I forgot how to do that. What was the theme? I forgot nothing.
I hate that fucking guy. Did you know that his mask is actually a
Ronald Reagan mask?
Wasn't it a William Shatner mask?
William Shatner. I think William Shatner. Yeah.
William Shatner? I always thought it was a Ronald Reagan.
No, it's William Shatner.
William Shatner's face.
Pretty sure.
That's more scary. I want to go with my classic is always Night of the Living Dead. I think that's a great movie to watch. Like,
which one though? Which one?
The first one, the black and white one.
Oh, that thing was fun.
Good zombie movie. Which is the one that we're stuck in the mall? Is that Dawn of the Dead?
That was Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the first one that was like.
That's an all-around awesome movie. I just think it's amazing. That's one of my favorite just dumb zombie movies. But
well, I think that was also like the first movie that like equated zombieism with like a critique of consumerism. Like that's why it's in a mall. It's talking about like the way that we like buy and consume and just eat and stuff. Like it was actually pretty smart in a way, as well as being like a fun dumb zombie movie.
We're all zombies, Jill. We're
You
dead.
get it.
You get
We're
it?
all the Walking Dead.
We're all the Walking Dead.
Where's Miami?
Oh my God, I do not like that show.
The original Night of the Living Dead is amazing. I like part 2. There was a part 2 where they did it like in a cemetery, and they burned the bodies that were infected, and the ash went up to the air and turned the whole city into zombies. That's a really dumb movie, which I love also. But I was also a sucker for like slasher flicks, so like Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, I thought was like, as a kid, just super horrifying. Like, I'm glad they got campier as more movies came out, because to me, I was able to watch them. But that was one of the reasons I never wanted to go to like a summer camp. Just because if I was gonna murder kids, a summer camp is like perfect. That in their dreams, like that's a great place to kill people, is in their dreams.
You're awful.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, I was about to say you're crazy human being, but okay, it's good to know, George.
All right, guys. So I'm horrored out. I am sick of being in black and white. We're gonna wrap it up, guys. But before that, you're here as my special guest. I want to show you guys. I want to talk to you guys a little bit. Joel, you know where I'm going with this, right?
I have no idea. Where are you going with this, George?
Oh, let me tell you. 1 second, let me work some magic here. I'm really into T-shirts. I don't know if you know that, but I know that. But Jill, you're a Star Wars fan, right, Jill?
Yeah, I am.
No, Jill, not
Me?
Joel.
I am a
Star Wars fan, right? Look, we've got a Koopa Troopa as a stormtrooper.
Ah!
I mean, right? You can
T Public? Oh.
Yeah, it's the DualShockers.com TeePublic site where if you buy a shirt from there, you're helping us out. You keep the lights on. But look, you can get a cool green Koopa Troopa shirt in any gender, in any size, in any color. Well, most colors, which is kind of neat. Or if you want
Nostalgia Entertainment
system, you can go with that. Or a Samtron shirt with Samus mixed in with some, or an adorable Charizard, guys. Guys.
I do worry about that. I worried a lot as a kid. I had a lot of, I was very upset about what Pokemon did in their Pokeballs and if they were comfortable in there, and I felt a lot of guilt about leaving my Pokemon in the PC too long.
Well, see, Joe, now you know what.
That is animal brutality at its best.
Ash Ketchum is no better than Michael Vick.
Well, the Charmander looks like he's having a great time, and you guys can show off that great time for only $20. So make sure you go to DualShockers.com, our TeePublic site. Help us out. It's why I keep doing this. I do this mostly because it's kind of dumb. That's the only reason I kind of like doing this commercial. But yeah, you'll be helping us out, and I need some color. There we go. I'm in color. Yes, I'm a real person again. I'm emotions now. So we're gonna wrap it up. Jill, thank you so much for coming
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jill.
And suffering through whatever this was of just me fumfering and me yelling at Ryan. Thank you. She is from Tom's Guide, Horror Bell Podcast. Anything else you want to plug? Do you have anything you're reviewing that you wanna just throw out there and have people check out over at Tom's Guide?
I've got to do my Evil Within review, which will be not. I mean, I hope it'll be entertaining, and just because I'm trying to articulate how much I don't like it. But after that, I'm going to review Dreamfall Chapters, which I'm excited about.
And, can we follow you on the Twitters? Do you want people to follow you?
I'm Jill Shar on Twitter. JILLSCHARR.
Yeah. So do that. Jill's also a member of the New York Video Game Critic Circle, like me, and we do the award show every February. So keep an eye out for that stuff. Again, thank you, Jill. You're welcome anytime. Not just
thank you very much.
But to talk video games, you also do internet security, so you can explain to me what a two-step authorization is. Much like, and I'm going to tell you up front, you're going to have an issue because Joel has been trying to explain to me what PlayStation TV is, and I still don't know what it is.
Well, I think two-step actually makes more sense than PlayStation TV.
Yeah.
And Yoris, you beautiful chocolate man, you are finally on the ShockCast. Partially we can hear you, we can't see you. You're gonna figure that out for next time, but
no. Next week I'll definitely you'll see my brown chocolate face for sure next week.
I hope you come back. You too have an open invitation to come on the ShockCast anytime you want.
I'd hope so. Thanks for having me.
You are a Utah correspondent. I want to ask you about fish and chips from London, pubs. What's a pint? That's a beer? I hear.
That's a man's drink, is what it is.
A pint. Okay, cool. I'm gonna make a note of that. I want to be a man one day. And Ryan, you are you.
I'm disappointed you didn't call me your beautiful chocolate man. I was waiting for that. So
Ryan, do you just want your 10 seconds of Smash Brothers, guys? I'll give it to you this week.
No, I'm okay. I'm good because I know it really offends you. For all 10 seconds of that's like the most painful thing you could ever hear me talk about.
Those that don't know, we give Ryan 10 seconds to talk about Smash Brothers.
Dog.
I'll do you a favor. Next week you'll get 20 seconds. You can bank these.
Okay.
So if you can not talk about it at the end of the year. You might have a full minute.
So I was to say, so if I just save them up for the next 2 years, do I just get a whole show where I could talk about Smash Brothers for the entire time?
It's
might be able to do that.
It's the podcast where I actually go to your house and strangle you for 20 minutes. And I just want to leave and see the life leave your eyes, and then I will do the time for that, Ryan. Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Joel, you magnificent bastard! Thank you for coming on here. I would do what we've been playing, but honestly, I'm way too tired. I'm sure you people are playing video games, which is good. Something you guys should keep an eye out for. My Sunset Overdrive review went up there. I really love the game. Be part of the 250 million comments on there, and yell at some other guy about something or frame rate.
He just wants to get more comments on the review. Let's just.
On the internet.
I feed off attention.
God.
Live. And Joel, you just had an editorial go up about holiday shopping and that you should buy everything, which I recommend.
Pretty much.
That's how you keep the economy going. That's how you take part of the society. Just pay for things in cash.
Buy both.
Yeah. So thank you guys again for coming. Again, Georgie Manis, host of this thing you've been watching, joined again by Yars Gutierrez, Ryan Meitzler, Joel Tavares, and again Jillian Shar. Thank you so much for coming, and hope you guys have a great and safe and spooky Halloween.
Make sure you have your parents
You
check
too.
the candy.
Yeah, and check the candy, guys.
Check the candy, guys. Check the
Check the
candy.
candies. Make sure it's not opened. Don't be the guy that gives people fruit. That you're a jerk. Don't do that. This is the
Or
one time
pennies.
you should have all the
You
sugar.
can't eat that.
Pennies suck.
Don't do that. Don't give them like juices either. That's kind of lame too.
I'm gonna go for Capri Sun. Everybody likes that.
Yeah, I'm
It's
okay.
enough sugar to count as candy. It should count.
So
Remember to squeeze it. So you did you guys do this? You had to squeeze the candies to see if they were still airtight. Because someone
I
was
was,
fear that someone hadn't. People were afraid when I was a kid that people were injecting poison into candy. So we had to, like squeeze our candies to make sure the wrappers were still airtight. That was a thing.
Or in my neighborhood, they put razor blades in candies.
That was another. Yeah. So again, like you squeeze. That was another. Like I've never encountered one or anyone who had one. But like if the wrapper's still airtight, then there's still razor blades.
Just be careful out there.
oh
Yeah.
my god, I am legitimately terrified.
Oh no.
You don't want to stay inside and play video games.
Yes, stay inside for video games. Have your mom just buy candy for you. That's
There you go.
fine. Just do that. It's so much easier. What are you guys dressing up as this year? Before we go.
Joel.
I'm actually going to be Superman. My son's going to be Batman. So
Oh.
Horrible.
yeah.
I love family superhero costumes. It's my
So
favorite
we
thing.
had to. We were going to do Mario and Luigi, but he's just not tall enough yet.
It's a bummer. Ryan, what are you doing? Halloween.
I don't know, because apparently you're gonna kill me, so I don't know if I'll make it to Halloween. So
Oh, you'll be fine. So you dressing up?
Nope. My son, I wanted to dress my son up as an Ewok, and I was gonna be Chewbacca, but
I love it.
you should
Yeah.
you should dress up Marcus as the Ewok, and then you should be a stormtrooper, so he could just like beat the crap out of you, like on Halloween, like in Return of the Jedi.
that doesn't happen, man. I'll shoot the shit out of him.
Like when you open your door and you just have this little Ewok just hitting
I will
the
shoot the shit out of him.
Stormtrooper with a
I was
staff
actually
on your
cheering
doorstep.
on the stormtroopers in Star Wars, and they were shooting the Ewoks.
There we go. Joe, what are you dressing up as?
I'm gonna be Midna from Twilight Princess. Got my
Oh, yes.
helmet.
That's
And a hat.
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll end on Jill wearing a hat. Put it on, Jill. Put it on.
It's such a process. Oh my god.
Come on! Don't ruin the podcast!
I can't see anything when I'm wearing it.
Perfect. On that note, guys, goodbye again. I have issues saying goodbye. I just don't like to leave. But safe and happy holiday.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Next week,
You guys, thanks for having me on.
Always, anytime, Jill. Love you guys. And I'm a pirate. Look, see. Arr,
You're a solid snake.
arr. Where's crossing the ground?